used for clients that have got fine thinning hair. If you want to know more about Ultrastrands and whether it can work in your salon, go visit www.ultrastrands.com. But today I am talking about the coronavirus. This is the second video that I'm doing, which is an update to the first video. The first video was pretty much an overview of the kind of things that we should be doing as an organization in the light of the coronavirus coming into play. But today I'm going to start focusing, drilling down on certain things and certain items that I touched upon in my previous video. If you haven't already watched it, you can always go to YouTube. It's there, Clara Alexander TV, or it's in the Facebook group, which is the Ultrastrand Technician Facebook group, and you will find me there, and lots and tons of other things as well. But today it's really about creating your DMZ. So I know that I spoke about the DMZ in the previous video, and some of you may have not even heard it, or maybe you're thinking, well, what actually is a DMZ? What is she talking about, Clara? What are you talking about? So today I'm actually going to show you how you can DMZ your salon. And just so that we've got that in your view, and I'm there in the corner, I'm just going to take my name off because you already know who I am, so you can see the screen exactly. Okay, so how to DMZ your salon, and this is help really for the hair and beauty industry. This is here to help you get through this period as much as possible and prolong your business lifetime in this period, because we know as it happens, businesses are struggling at this point in time, and the more we can do and the more we can make our environment a more cleaner, healthier environment for our clients, the longer we are likely to stay open. Obviously, if the government decide that they're going to close all businesses down, that's a different story altogether, and I'm sure there'll be lots of updates in relation to the kind of things that we can be doing while we're stuck at home. But at this period of time, we are out on the field, we are showing up, and we are hoping that our clients are showing up too. And we are obviously praying for everybody to make sure that, you know, everybody is safe in this period of time. But your salon is the location where people are going to come to. And I am going to take you through how you can keep your salon safe in this period of time. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is knowing your section. So before I actually talk about knowing your sections, some of you might be asking, like I said before, what is a DMZ? Now, you might have heard demilitarized zones, and it's used basically in countries where they're trying to get an area where there are no no military zone area, basically, and that's what it's used in those terms. It's also used in the IT industry, which is the buffer between your the people that are in your internal network and the people that are in your external network, and it's kind of like a buffer, making sure that anything that comes into your internal network is good and kosher and is not going to cause any issues. And this is why I've decided to call it the DMZ, because we're in a situation where you know, we have to kind of segregate between people that are can come into the salon and have a service and those that can't come in. And sometimes, you know, people will self-regulate themselves and go, well, I don't feel too well, so I'm not going to go into the salon. But there's going to be times when you're going to have people that will come into the salon just because they need to have the service, whatever that service is, and they're literally foregoing their health at this point in time. And if that then happens, that what that's doing is that that's then impacting those clients of yours that there's nothing wrong with. And indeed, not just your clients, but also yourself, because if you go out of business, then there's nowhere for your clients to come to. And if your clients get ill whilst they're in your salon, then that is going to impact their world and impact their world adversely. So we're trying as much as possible not to be that single point of failure where people come in and they come out not feeling so great or not being great. And then even if they're not, they don't feel it or they don't know that they have it, as we've heard already over the news, that some people may not have it, may not know they've got it, but they have got it, and then they can pass it on to other people. And at this point in time, we're about helping the vulnerable and protecting the vulnerable, protecting the old, protecting the ill as well, and also protecting the pregnant. So about protecting people. And some of these people are the type of people that are going to be coming into your salons. So when I'm talking about the DMZ, first of all, it's about knowing your sections. And I've categorized it into 3 zones. The first is what I call the clean zone. The second is the dirty zone. And the third is the neutral zone. So these are the 3 zones. And what we're going to now do is look to see how we categorize our salon into those areas. So I'm going to give you an example of what one would expect to be in each of these zones. So for clean zone, so essentially your salon floor, as in not the physical floor, but the salon area, needs to be a clean zone. Your consultation rooms, these are clean zones. These are places where people are coming into. This is where people are coming into for a service. So when they're coming into this place, these must be your clean zones. And I'll explain what that's going to look like later on. Your treatment rooms as well. So you might have a separate consultation room till you have a treatment room. The treatment room should be your clean zones. And also the kitchen, because the kitchen is a place where you're going backwards and forth and you're possibly getting teas and coffees and things like that for your clients. So this needs to be a clean zone. And your staff room as well, because at the end of the day, this is where your staff is going to congregate and maybe have their lunch and things like that. And what you don't want to have is that being a zone where they can catch all sorts of things and then they'll come back out again and it impacts on their clients. So these are the bare basics of what should be in your clean zone. There may be other things, for example, like changing rooms and stuff like that. If you've got that segregated from your treatment rooms, these should be classified as your clean zones. The next is the dirty zone. Now, the dirty zone, as the name implies, is kind of like the zones where vulnerabilities are likely to exist. So these include your washrooms, so your bathrooms, your toilets, your entry hallways, your reception as well. So these are places where people are coming in from the outside and they could well be hitting these zones. And these are zones which are more difficult to manage. But once you understand what a dirty zone is, and you know that this is a zone where there's likely to be, or the potential for infection can come into being, then you're looking to say, okay, so how can we ensure that people that are in the dirty zone do not necessarily come into the clean zone unless that we are 100% sure that they themselves are clean. So we're not using dirty as in they're, dirty, disgusting kind of thing. That's not what we're using. It's almost like a zone where things can happen. So infections can be in that particular, or infections are more than likely to be in that area, and therefore you're able to protect those others from those kind of infections. So there are points where you can actually turn people away. So for example, if somebody comes in and they get as far as your reception and you find out that they're not feeling too well or they're not looking too good, you can turn them away at this point before rather than letting them go into a clean zone and impacting the people that are there. The next thing is what I call the neutral zone, and neutral zone is pretty much places that you don't go into. So things that there may be your storerooms where nobody goes in there, or even your garage that nobody goes in there. It's just full of junk and things like that. Those are your neutral zones, and I'm not really going to be talking about neutral zones today. The only point where the neutral zone becomes really important is if, for example, you have got a salon set up in your home and you have got locations which are neutral zone. So for example, you've got a garage which you generally would go into because you've got other things other than what your salon equipment. So they may be a neutral zone in this sense, but they may not actually be a neutral zone in the sense of impacting others. So it might be that if you've got a home, an in-home salon, that your garage is actually now a clean zone or a dirty zone as opposed to a neutral zone. So basically a neutral zone is places that people just don't go into, so it's not going to have an impact either way. It's got things in there, and it is a physical room, but no one's going to go in. So those are the 3 things that you need to be looking at. So the 3 kind of zones. So when you're looking at these zones, what we need to be looking at is the entry and exits into clean zones and the entry into dirty zones. So basically what you don't want to do is mix the clean and the dirty zones together. They need to be separated out. So you've got to have checkpoints. And these checkpoints are literally you understanding or getting an understanding from the client as to whether they're able to move into a clean point. And if they are in a clean point, you need to make sure that when they exit from the clean point, that they are also a-okay as well. So once they come into a clean point, then it's really your responsibility to make sure that everything within that area is clean, because you're the one that got control in that area. And this again is the difference between the clean and the dirty, because like in the clean zone, you have got 100% control about the people that go into that zone. When you're talking about a dirty zone, you don't have 100% control about the people that go into that zone. And that's why it's also a dirty zone. So for example, you may have somebody just walks in the street from the street. You've got no idea, they haven't booked an appointment or anything like that, and they just come in to ask a question. Now, what you need to be able to do is protect the people that are in the clean zones from this individual until you can ascertain whether this individual is actually clean or not. So these are the things that you really need to be considering and putting into place. So when I have another video, I'm really going to talk about how your clean zone should actually look like, the sort of things that you should be looking to have in your clean zones. But one thing that I will talk about at this point in time is some sort of sanitation. Some sort of sanitation needs to be in the gap between your dirty zone and your clean zone. And if you've got that level of sanitation, that's going to give people a level of comfort as well. So whether that is like, you know, a hand wash, or whether a hand sanitizer is, if you can get any of them, or even something that you know, a homemade one is possible to do as well. So it doesn't mean that because we don't have them in the shops, you can't make them at home. I'm sure Google has got lots of ways in which you can make hand sanitizing situations. But one thing that I would say is things like the use of bleach, the use of disinfectants. All of those things are going to help to make sure that people infection in that could well be in your dirty zone does not get carried into your clean zone. So people that are, you know, they may come in and they may be coughing, for instance, and they may go, oh, you know, I'm fine, I don't have a temperature or anything like that. But the mere fact that they're coughing could be an indication that you should send them home from that point in time. One of the things that you also need to be able to remember is your dirty zones are probably your most vulnerable zones. So if you've got people that are in your dirty zones, they are very vulnerable at that point in time. So for example, like I talked about your reception being a dirty zone, if you've got somebody manning the reception, it's important that they are given the correct gear and also the correct tool to keep themselves healthy as well. Because you know, someone could come out from the outside and come straight up to the reception and start talking and start coughing, and the receptionist is suddenly ill. And when the receptionist becomes ill, obviously it's an impact to her and her health, or his and his health, and that's one thing. But the other thing is that it's also an impact to your business, because now you don't have a receptionist that's going to cover your desks. And when you don't have a receptionist that's going to cover your desk, then you're going to have to put other things in place. And if you are the one, so if you're the salon owner and you're now covering your desk, that's a big risk as well, because the minute you're out, because if you're in a dirty zone, the minute you're out in the dirty zone, then it means that you're now vulnerable. And if you go, then your business is gone. So it's really important to be able to look to see who are you going to put into your dirty zones. Now, to be honest, it may well be that you actually don't have people in your dirty zone. You have things in your dirty zone. So you have things, you have documents, you have information as to if you're having any of these 3 symptoms, then please, you know, leave a message and go home, kind of thing. Or you have all your sanitations in there, and you know, things like that, and you have like a distance between the person that's directing and also the actual client. So it's not a case that the client comes directly up to the reception, which they normally would do, but they stay at their distance, and then they are either handed over some information that they can read through and go through, and then hand the information back over. Now, Again, I know it's going to sound very alien because this is not how we are. This is not how we've been created to be. We're being created to be in connection and in relationship with each other, and we're now acting in a way that is contrary to that. And I totally understand that, and I totally get that. But remember what I always say: you are in control of the things that you do, but the things that you do impact another person, and it could impact another person's world, and the things that they do impact their world as well. So it's a ripple effect. So whatever you do has got an impact on somebody else's world. So you've got to be very careful about the things that you do, especially in this period of time. Now, I just want to show you an example of something. And this is an example of the categorization between a clean and a dirty zone. Now, this is obviously an awesome looking salon floor because it's got so many different things going on. But this also makes it a lot more complicated when it comes to the DMZ. So what we are looking at from a DMZ perspective, that the DMZ is literally almost an invisible firewall. So it's actually that point in which you can do your checks. It's the point in which you can do your checks, and you either send them back outside or you allow them in. But once you've allowed them in, then it's you saying that, okay, this person has been checked and this person is okay, and I'm now allowing them into my salon floor. It's very important to note and to look. And if you can see here, for example, this is a salon, and they have got they've got two toilets here. They've got one here and they've got one here. Now, you know how I said that the toilet is an example of a dirty zone? So when somebody comes in from the outside, so they're coming in through this door here and they're coming to the outside and they sit around here. Now, at this point in time, nobody knows whether they're good or they're not good, whether they've got the virus, whether they've not got the virus. The reception is sat here, but they're in the dirty zone. Now, this proximity to where the couches are is probably okay. It's probably okay. But if the receptionist would have to get up and then come over to the client and start talking to them, then it becomes an issue. So if you have a receptionist here, before they come from here to here, there needs to be some sort of notification to the client to know whether they can step up to the mark or go home. And if they're stepping up to the mark, then what are the things that they need to do in order for them to be able to move into where this area is? Because as you're moving closer towards this area, you're moving closer towards the clean zone. Remember again that, a client could literally come through the door and head straight in for the toilet. Now, this again is a dirty zone. So if they've not been checked and they sit back on their seat and they get called for their appointment, they're automatically back into the clean zone, and they can then infect the clean zone. So it's very, very useful for you to have a diagram. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. Doesn't need to be like 100% like how this is. Just know where your floor plan is. Just draw it out on a sheet of paper, A4 sheet of paper. Draw it out where your toilets are, where your kitchen is, where the salon floor is, where the treatment rooms is. Like you can see here as well. You've got a dirty section here and a clean section here. Now, essentially, this needs to be as clean. You need to almost convert this as quickly as possible to a clean section, because if this is a dirty section, then somebody coming from here can actually literally come out in here and make a clean area dirty. So if you're looking at your locations and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this at the moment is dirty, I'm going to have to change that. Either we close this off so nobody can go in there, so no one has access to this toilet at all, and everybody then has to use this. Or we convert this into a clean zone, which means there's certain things we need to put in place. So, and by converting this into a clean zone, then it means that anybody from the outside that hasn't gone through your checkpoint, which is here, is not able to go into this toilet. And that includes your staff as well, because it's very, very easy for you to go, oh, we're all staff, so we can just come in and we can do what we like. Staff can also catch corona disease. It's not, doesn't limit itself to one person or another person. Anybody can have it. So it's really important that, in all honesty, anybody, staff or no staff, yourself included, that comes through this zone goes through those checks. Now, in another video, I'm going to show you some examples of some of the checks that you should be doing, some of the things that you can do to make sure that, you can effectively determine between who needs to come out of the dirty side and who's allowed to go forward. The other thing is that when you've got somebody that's come in and you've sent them home, it's very, very important that if they have sat down or anything along those lines, that you make sure you clean the area. These are the areas, the dirty zone areas are the areas which are going to need the cleaning the most. They're going to need the cleaning the most because this is the areas where the likelihood of infection can come in. So you're going to have to get, like, your cleaners, whatever the disinfectants is, and make sure that is clean. Now, just because it's clean doesn't mean that it's not a dirty zone. The reason why it is a dirty zone is because of the potential for people to come in for which you have got no control over and can therefore contaminate it. Whereas if you have people sitting in your salon and you have done all your checks correctly and they're sitting in here, then the likelihood is that this is now clean. So the people that are coming here don't have an issue. And this is why when they're coming out, you also need to make sure that by them coming into this section, they don't get contaminated on their way out. So make sure that there's appropriate checks and what have you need to be in place before they come out. And this is what I mean by the DMZ. So your DMZ is pretty much your screening process. So it's the screening process that you're using to make sure that those that may have the infection or may have symptoms do not come into the areas for those that definitely don't have the symptoms or the infections and cause contamination. I hope that is clear, but I'm going to stop there because there's a lot of things that I can talk about in relation to this. But one thing I will also say is that when you've created your floor plan and you've gone in, you can use it for so many different things. A DMZ could be used for so many different things. It could be used to see the pathways to how you want your clients to walk. You can be used to determine where do you put your posters up, where do you do these things, how do you want the workflow to be, how do you want the flow of a client coming into your salon, how do you want the whole atmosphere to feel like, where should I position flowers, all of these kind of things. It could be used in that manner as well. But today we are using it from a DMZ perspective. So we're using it from a clean side to a dirty side, determining who can come into the salon, who can't come into the salon, and what we do with those people that are in the salon and what we do with those people that we have sent home or those people that are actually sitting in a dirty zone. And once you can do this, you're going to start to see changes, differences. You're going to start to see that your salon is getting more sanitized than you can possibly sanitize it if you're not doing it based on a plan. Anything that with a plan is going to work. You have a plan, it's going to work. So I urge you, if you've watched this, get your pen and paper, draw out your salon plan. What does it look like? And categorize them between clean and dirty and start thinking about the things that you need to do in your dirty zone and the things that you need to do in your clean zone. Till next time, I hope this has helped you. I look forward to seeing you again soon and sharing some more thoughts in relation to that. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.